My name is Chris Carroll, and I'm going to start off this online open day on the MSc in International Health Technology Assessment, Pricing and Reimbursement. We're just going to go through a few housekeeping elements to make sure everyone can see and hear everything. You won't be looking at me in this here webcam for the duration, because that would just be too awful for everybody. And so I'm going to switch off at some point, and you can focus on the slides. So let's go on to the second slide. This is the team we've got with us today for the online open day. First of all, there's myself at the top. My name is Chris Carroll. I am the director of the MSc programme and a senior lecturer in HTA, and I'll now pass on to Claire.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm Chris's deputy on the programme, and I also teach on one of the semester 1 modules on systematic reviewing. I'll hand over to Luke.
Okay, hello, I'm Luke. I'm one of the learning technologists in the school, so I help support this programme, the IHTA programme, and provide the technical support. And I'll hand you back to Chris. I'll speak to you a bit later on.
Okay, thanks, Luke. I'll turn my video off now. I'll just say we've also got Emma here, who's one of our admissions officers. Our other admissions officer is Ben, who's off today. So these are the people who are all here. You can ask questions of us during the course of this sort of online open day, which will probably take sort of 45 minutes or so of your time. And what I'm just going to do now is go through how this session is going to work. First of all, Luke is going to talk you through about how to participate during the course of the next sort of 45 minutes and put down the ground rules for participation. Then I'm going to talk about the distance learning MSc, the whole course, how it's structured, its basis, and so on. Then Claire and Luke are both going to talk about the virtual learning environment that we use to deliver the course. I'm going to talk about the application and admissions process, and then there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end. And I'll just say as well, during the course of it, if you have any questions, Luke's going to show you the chat function, which is on the left-hand side of your window, how to use that. And if you post any questions there during the course or anything that comes up during the course of the presentations, then we will try to answer them as we go along.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So just to tell you about a couple of things in terms of using this software, there's a slide up at the moment which I'd like to use just to draw your attention to a few things. So first of all, the chat window, which normally appears on the right side of your screen, although you can move that around, that allows you to actually type out. I noticed there's already some comments appearing in that box. So as Chris says, feel free to use that and be respectful, obviously. But if you have any questions or you want to pose anything in that box, feel free to type away, and one of the team will respond during the webinar. Also, towards the end, we'll be taking questions from people, and if you'd like to ask a question, if you can press the hand up button, which is on the left of the screen. It's just above the list of participants, and you click on it. As you can see, I've just done that, and it sort of puts a little hand up there and a number. So if you use that, it's a way that we can manage the question and answer session later on. And finally, if you can just click the green tick if you agree to abide by these rules, and we can move on. And you can find that next to the hand button. There's little tick buttons. If you drop that down, I see that somebody already has done that. So if you could just all tick the green tick box, and we will get on with the rest of the session. I see there's a few ticks appearing now. Okay, great. Let's move on. So I'll pass you back to Chris.
Fabulous, thanks Luke. And I can see you can all hear because you're doing what Luke's asked you to do, so that's fantastic. As I say, if you have any particular questions that come up as we're talking the presentations, then please put them in the chat box and we will endeavour to answer them during the course of the online open day. Alternatively, leave them to the end and we will try and deal with them all together. Up to you, really. Certainly, questions that you want to put during the course of the presentation, make sure they're in the chat box. If you want to ask a question, then we'll deal with that right at the end. And as it says there, please be polite and respectful of all participants. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Okay, for those of you who don't know anything about Sheffield or the University of Sheffield, you can see from this map here that it's right in the middle of the country. It's in the north of England, about halfway between London and Edinburgh, and it's on the edge of the largest national park in England, which is the Peak District, and there you get to see an aerial view at the top of Sheffield there, and the university itself is based right in the middle of the city. And it's what we call a red brick university. You can see that from the bottom picture there, from one of the main buildings, Firth Court here at Sheffield. It's a red brick university, so it was one of the universities, along with the likes of Manchester and York and Nottingham, Birmingham, that were built sort of at the turn of the 19th and the 20th century as higher education expanded. So we had our centenary about 8 years ago. So that's the university itself, what it looks like and where it is. And in terms of our place in the world, you may have seen on the university website at the moment that we have this ranking in the top 100 within the World University Rankings. We were the UK University of the Year just 2 years ago. We were given that award by the Times Higher Education Supplement, and you may have also seen on the current web pages that the university is up for a number of other awards this year. I would also say that we're part of the Russell Group, which is the top sort of 30 research universities in the UK. So we're a fairly prominent university now. Now, this is where we are. We're actually in this building that you see this picture of here, on the ground floor at the moment, and that's the School of Health and Related Research, or ScHARR. And that is a school within the Faculty of Medicine, Dentistry and Health here at the university. So other parts of the faculty are obviously involved in teaching doctors and nurses and dentists and other health professionals. We really look at health technology and health services research here. And there are 4 sections or departments within the school. It is quite a big school. And health economics and decision science, it is staff in this department, and that's where I work, where Claire works, and so on, who deliver the vast majority of the modules and materials that are given, that are provided on the MSc in International HTA. So it's largely from within this section, although there are 2 trials modules, and they are delivered by staff from the Design, Trials and Statistics section, which sort of obviously makes sense. I'll just say something about the work we do, because that sort of underlines how we're able to teach what we do teach on this programme. As it says there, ScHARR is involved in a range of HTA activity. One of our principal contracts is we have a multi-million-pound contract with NICE in the UK, and that's the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. And there's a small number of centres in the UK that do work for NICE. If I was just to outline the HTA process, basically a technology might come up that needs to be considered by NICE as a body, and then they commission centres, such as the centre here at ScHARR, to do clinical effectiveness evaluations and economic evaluations of the evidence. Then we present those findings to NICE. NICE make recommendations to the Department of Health, and the Department of Health then decide whether or not to reimburse or to pay for that technology, that drug or device or whatever it might be. So we are key in that process here at ScHARR. not only in terms of our day-to-day job, in that we're constantly doing technology appraisals for NICE, but we also do methods research, which informs the guidance documents, the technology appraisal guides that NICE produce. For example, the recent one on diagnostic accuracy reports, that was done by members of staff here at ScHARR. But that's just part of our HTA work. We also get a lot of money to do health technology assessment work for the UK National Institute for Health Research, I've seen there, and we also do quite a lot of consultancy work for the pharmaceutical industry. So when the pharmaceutical industry is submitting technology appraisals to NICE, we're also involved in those. So basically we've got a full view of the HTA process. We've got like a 360 view. We're involved in all aspects of it, from helping pharma and helping the NIHR to design trials, to actually conducting clinical evidence review and economic evaluations and so on, not just for NICE and public bodies, but also for industry. So it's very much our job. It's our day job. It's what the vast majority of staff within HEADS, Health Economics and Decision Science, do as their job. So as you can imagine, we're pretty expert in it. What we've got there, the rituximab and cholesterol examples are just some examples of recent technology appraisals we've worked on for NICE. But I'd also like to draw your attention to things, other elements or specific elements within the HTA process. For example, like quality of life measures, preference-based measures of health. We have people like Professor John Brazier here, who is key in the development with the Department of Health of the new value-based pricing initiative, and John makes major contributions on 2 modules within the Masters. And we have cost-effectiveness modelers here, people like Professor Alan Brennan, who leads one of the modules and who made key contributions to the international guidelines on modelling for HTA, that is those provided by the International Society for Patient Outcome Research, or ISPOR. So our staff and the staff that will be teaching you on this programme are really the staff who are at the cutting edge of HTA internationally. And we also seek to use collaborations with people around the world to fill in those gaps in terms of knowledge of health systems, differences between health systems and how things work in different countries. We have developed and used those collaborations within the Masters. So for example, one of the core Masters modules looks at international health systems and reimbursement, and we have colleagues in Central and Eastern Europe, in the United States, in Australia, in France, in Germany, in Spain, in Canada and Thailand, who all contribute to that module in some way, so that you, the students, get the most up-to-date information on health systems and HTA all over the world. And we also collaborate with the likes of NICE International, the international body that seeks to establish NICE standards worldwide and support HTA capacity worldwide. And plenty of staff here are also members of the big international organisations that look at HTA. For example, HTAI, Health Technology Assessment International, I sit on the scientific review group of that. We have lots of members of ISPOR and so on. So this is just to highlight, it's our job to do HTA. We have good networks, and all of that you would get the benefit of course, in the Masters programme. And so at the end of it, what would you get if you came out of this course? Well, as it says there, the aim is to equip graduates with excellent competency, either in, depending on what sort of perspective you're coming at it from, not only in sort of how to design an HTA or to commission health technology assessments or to appraise ones that have been done by others, but you will also come out with a conceptual understanding of each of the stages and processes in HTA, and also practical skills of doing those things. We work with real-life case studies. We always give you real-life sort of real-world scenarios and examples to work with. So you don't just come out with, if you like, a broad conceptual understanding of the process, which you will, but you always also come out with real practical skills that you can use when engaging in any stage within HTA. And the course is unique in lots of ways. It's unique in that it's the longest running course of its type. We're in our 3rd year already now. It's a distance learning course. We're the only course that really looks at HTA broadly without a very specific focus. So you may encounter the odd other course that looks at HTA, but they tend to have a very specific focus, such as health economics. We look at HTA generally. And in terms of its uniqueness as well, we have modules, for example, on pharmaceutical pricing, on how to translate HTA evidence from one jurisdiction, say from the UK or Canada, into other jurisdictions, and we're able to call upon, through our collaborations, really expert material and contributions in doing that, and in that the course really is quite unique. So moving on from the content, this is the structure. It's part-time. We don't have any full-time students. You do 2 modules every semester and a dissertation. So in that sense, you can finish it within 2 years. So you do 2 modules, 2 semesters a year, 2 modules per semester. That gives you your 8 modules, which is the full masters and then the dissertation. But we are quite flexible. We have students who do, say, 1 module a semester rather than 2. And we're happy to allow that because most of our students are professionals. They're working full-time. They're working in the pharma industry or within departments of health and so on. And workload and various domestic things can mean that there are times when they just can't do as much as they'd like, and we're happy to accommodate that where we can, and in such instances it may take up to 3, 4, 5 years for you to complete the MSc, but as I say, we can accommodate that. You don't have to come to Sheffield at all. Everything is online. Everything is delivered online, and we're going to talk about that a bit more later. The MSc, say it's 180 credits, that's 120 credits, that's the 8 taught modules plus 60 credits for a dissertation. The other options for you are that you don't do the dissertation and you go for the diploma, but for both of those you have 5 core modules which you have to take. For the certificate, which again doesn't have a dissertation, is just 4 modules, 4 15 credit modules. You can choose any 4 modules on the course, any 4 modules that are available, so it's very flexible. This is what the course would normally look like for most people moving through the MSc. In the first semester of year 1, you would do this one, methods and processes in international HTA. That gives you the real basics of what's involved in health technology assessment. And then if you look at year 1, semester 2, international healthcare systems, I've mentioned that already, that gives you a real overview of how HTA works in different countries and how it's used in different countries to inform reimbursement decisions and why those differences exist. And the other 2 core modules in the first year are, if you like, the 2 key elements of the health technology assessment process: clinical effectiveness review, which is the systematic reviews evidence synthesis, and cost-effectiveness modelling. So you're answering those questions: is something clinically effective, and is it cost-effective? And then in year 2, you would do the final of the core modules, which is economic evaluation, HTA, resource allocation, quality of life, and so on, utility data. And then there's a whole range of optional modules that you can take. For every one of those core modules that you've seen there, there is a more advanced module. So essentially, you can then follow your particular interests and needs within the master's program and look at 2, 3 of those areas in much more depth. And then if you are completing the MSc, there is a research dissertation which can run into year 3, so that, because like other part-time degrees, it means that you don't have to just have it done by September. We can give you an extra 3 or 4 months to complete it. And then I think finally from me, a comment on workload and assessment, because people always want to know how much time they've got to give to this. Well, on average, it's up to 10 hours a week per module. So if you've got 15 weeks, there's 150 hours. It's not always 10 hours a week though, but if you're doing 2 modules as the standard thing, then it's up to 20 hours a week. Some weeks will be lighter, some weeks you might be familiar with the topic, you don't have to do so much reading, you don't have to give it so much thought, you can do things a little bit quicker. Some weeks are just lighter just in the way that they're being delivered, there's more variety and so on. So that's a maximum, really. And there are 12 weeks of taught materials for most modules, and then the extra 3 weeks and 30 hours are for you to complete the assignment. And that's for any sort of 15 credit module, and as you can see there, for a 60 credit module like the dissertation, then that's obviously 4 times as much as 600 hours. How are things assessed? Well, it's for every 15 credit module, you have to produce a piece of work around 3,000 words, essentially. Now that might be a single assignment, an essay, or a report. Remembering, of course, that all assessments and assignments are based on the learning outcomes and objectives of the module. So you'll see those at the start of any module. And what you get within the assessment is something which will be seeking to test how well, conceptually and critically and practically, you have understood what you have been taught in the previous 12 weeks. As I say, it might be a single essay or report. It might have 2 or 3 elements, the assignment of 1,000 words each. One might be a critical appraisal of a model, for example, building a model, building part of a model using Excel. Something like, there might be something like building a conceptual model. So it depends on the module, the form of the assessment, but they are all basically about 3,000 words and in either a single piece or in 2 or 3 pieces. And the dissertation itself, as it says at the end there, is 10 to 15,000 words. And now I'm going to pass you on to Claire to talk about the experience of learning online.
Hello. So, yeah, the course, as Chris has said, is delivered 100% online. There is no face-to-face attendance element of it whatsoever. And all of the course materials are delivered using a service at the University of Sheffield called MOLE, which stands for My Online Learning Environment. So it's the university's VLE, or virtual learning environment. We use a wide variety of tools and teaching materials on the program to keep it sort of interactive and lively and interesting. A little bit of the teaching at the moment is done live synchronously. So by that we mean that you attend a session much like you are right now at this online open day, where you log into Blackboard Collaborate and one of the course tutors will be waiting there. They might be delivering a lecture with some slides like we're doing now, or it might take the format of a webinar where it will be more interactive, and we'll probably have asked you to prepare some work in advance of the webinar, and then we'll be discussing it live. So there are live elements, but the majority of the content is asynchronous, i.e. pre-recorded lectures and materials that are prepared in advance, and you access them as and when you need to. The course materials are designed to be very collaborative. We use a cohort model, so you'll be working on tasks and activities with other students on the course and getting to know the other students who are on the course with you. And as Chris has kind of implied, the materials are released gradually in this kind of block format with some potential for you to be able to get ahead and read, but also with opportunities to catch up as well. So the majority of work you'll find is individual study, but there is also group work as well. And all of our teaching materials are printable, so every time a new block of course materials are released, you can, if you want to, download it as a PDF file and print it out. So if you like to not work online all the time or be always at your computer, you can also print out some of the teaching materials, which might be helpful in terms of fitting your learning in and around your other things in your life. So why would you want to learn online? Well, obviously there's a certain amount of flexibility when you learn online, although we do have some live synchronous elements in the course where you'll need to be sat at your computer at a certain time. The majority of the materials you access as and when you need to, so it's a lot more flexible and therefore potentially more convenient than a face-to-face attendance course, because you can access the materials as and when you want to and fit them around other things, particularly around work. It can make you a more independent learner. You do also need to be a bit more of an independent learner. You're not going to be sort of surrounded by your other students on campus to sort of encourage you to get your work completed or go to the library and that kind of thing. And for a lot of students, they like that feeling of independence and relying more on themselves. It allows you to learn part-time more easily. As Chris said, we can be flexible about how you undertake the course and the period of time that you stretch the course out over, which again, if you're working, might be very appealing. And it can also help with the cost as well, because obviously if you're attending a university face-to-face, that tends to accrue additional costs on top of your course fee, so travelling to and from, potentially moving to another country, as some of our students here at ScHARR do. So it can help keep the cost of learning down as well if you learn online. In terms of what you'll actually need to participate in the course, you probably have a lot of this already because you've been able to participate in this open day. You'll need a decent PC or laptop and a headset. The headset will be necessary so that you can listen to the online lectures and also potentially participate in webinars. A webcam is ideal but not essential. Again, if you participate in some of the webinars that we run on the course, if you've got a webcam, we'll be able to see you just like you can see me now. But that's not absolutely vital. You'll need an up-to-date operating system on your computer and an up-to-date web browser. Because all the materials are delivered online, it is fairly important that you keep your web browser up to date so that all of the course materials will work properly. You'll need reliable internet access. Obviously, only you can know how reliable internet access is where you are. But again, particularly for the synchronous elements of the course, if you want to participate in those, then you need it to be reliable. But you need to certainly know that at certain times of the day, you're going to be able to access the web to get access to the course materials. Going back to what I said before about being an independent learner, you do need to be self-motivated and to be self-disciplined. Like I say, you won't have other students sort of physically around you reminding you about stuff you've got to do and that kind of thing. So you do need to be quite a self-motivated person and to have the self-discipline to allocate time and make sure that you've got that time to get on with your work. And having time and space to study in peace is obviously an important element of that, being able to get on with your work in peace and quiet. I know that can be probably the hardest thing out of everything on this slide to make time for and space for in your life, but anyway, time and space to study in peace is fairly important. I think Carol has just joined us. Hello, Carol. So I mentioned MOLE on the previous slide. MOLE, or My Online Learning Environment, is how you will access all of the course materials. You can see a little screenshot on the screen here. This is how MOLE typically looks when you log into it. All of the modules that you'll be studying on the programme will be listed here in the course list. So when you need to access course materials, you'll just click on whichever module you're working on at the moment, and that will let you into the course materials for that module. As Chris sort of alluded to earlier, for each of the modules, we produce quite a wide variety of teaching resources, so it's not sort of entirely based on lectures or entirely based on just text-based materials. We try to provide a variety of stuff. And each of the modules within MOLE has a set of kind of linked pages that are released kind of sequentially. So we'll release a block of 2 weeks worth of content that you can then work through, then we'll have maybe a short break to catch up, and then the next block is released. And you're literally just working through a set of pages. So you can see here there's some text for you to read, and on the right hand side there's a link out to some supplementary materials, in this case the Cochrane Handbook, and also a link to a video to watch. So it's quite easy to just work sequentially through the materials. So as I say, the material is delivered in blocks, and each block represents 2 weeks worth of learning. So each of these 2 week blocks will have between 10 and 30 pages of content. So the last page you just saw, or the last slide you just saw, was sort of a typical page. So there'll be between 10 and 30 of those pages in each 2 week block. And we try to keep those pages short, so we tend to limit the amount of scrolling up and down the screen that you'd need to do. Each page is sort of relatively short and tries to be reasonably self-contained. So the pages will contain a variety of resources. Obviously text will be an obvious one. There'll often be short talking head videos, so where one of the course team will be talking sort of directly to camera about something. There will be quite a lot of screencasts and presentations. So these are the kind of content that replaces a conventional university lecture. But even with the screencasts, we tend to keep those quite short. So you're unlikely to be presented with a sort of an hour-long lecture as you might attend on campus. It's more likely to be around sort of between 15 and 25 minutes. So we keep all the materials relatively short so that you can fit little bits in as you go along rather than needing to commit a lot of time to watch, say, a whole lecture. There are quizzes for you to test your learning. We use little techniques like reveal boxes where we'll sort of put an idea to you that you respond to and then you click to get our kind of response to it as well. Various group and individual tasks and activities for you to do. When we are assessing a module, there's two kinds of assessment that we use, one called formative and one called summative. Summative assessment is the kind that you get marks for and it contributes to your final overall degree mark, but also there'll be lots of what we call formative assessed tasks. These don't contribute marks to your final degree, but they're all helping you to achieve the learning objectives for the module and also helping you to be prepared for the assessed work for the module as well. So the formative tasks and activities are important to participate in whenever you can. There'll be links to online reading, so journal articles, papers and policy documents, and wherever possible we try and make it very, very simple to link out and gain access online to those documents. There'll sometimes be link outs to websites and also discussion forums and wikis in particular. Discussion is a big part of the way that we sort of facilitate that cohort model that was mentioned earlier on. On here is another example of a typical item of course material. You can see on the screen here, this is a short video introduction to a module from Chris, who was speaking earlier on. Most of the modules begin in this way with some kind of introductory message that kind of sets the tone and gives you a chance to kind of meet virtually one of the module tutors or the module lead. And video is a really big element of the way that the course materials are delivered. There's a wide variety, but there's plenty of video content, so hopefully you'll still get a sense of sort of contact and connectedness with the staff on the module. It's not just all about reading. This is an example of one of the multiple choice question tests that we use quite a lot in the course. These allow you to self-assess your own learning, and usually we allow you to repeat them. So if you get questions wrong, you get another chance to go back and have another go at the answer. It means you get instant feedback. You can see on the right hand here, this person has answered the first question wrong, so the red box is the feedback telling you your answer was incorrect and giving you some guidance. The second one they've got right, so it's green to tell you the answer is correct, and again, a little bit of supplementary information is given there. So MCQs feature quite regularly throughout the course, and usually they're used in this formative sense for your own sort of self-assessment. I'm going to hand over to Luke now. Luke is one of our learning technologists at ScHARR, so he's going to talk a little bit more about the tools that we use within MOL on the course.
Okay, thanks. Hope you can hear me. So just to sort of carry on really from what Claire was saying, I want to just demonstrate visually some of the other stuff that you'll come across on the course. So starting off first with some of the MOL tools, I'd just like to demonstrate the kind of look and feel that you'll encounter on some of the collaborative tools like the discussion board, but to a certain extent you'll also see this on the journals and the blogs as well. But on this screen, on the left-hand side, you can see a list of sort of discussion threads where various topics are being debated amongst the group. And then on the right, you can kind of see where each individual participant is contributing to the debate or the argument. And you can scroll through and see how the comments actually sort of relate to each other. So moving on, this is also one of the actual live or synchronous sessions that we offer, and it will look something like this using the Collaborate software that we're actually using today to do the online open day with. And in this example you can see that Claire's actually running a session here on the course, and it's a very similar look to what you're seeing right now. We use this throughout some of the modules to give it that sort of live feel to the teaching. And we also have slightly similar but also slightly different pre-recorded online lectures. So these are actually not live and interactive, they're actually recorded as electronic lectures effectively, and then we make them available to you throughout the modules at various points, and you can watch these. Claire's already mentioned these, they're fairly short, normally 20 minutes or thereabouts, and you can watch these in your own time, and you can go back and re-watch them as many times as you like as well. We also have a tool here called Turnitin. You may have heard of this before, maybe not. It's a tool that we use throughout all of the modules, and it's really great for basically allowing you to submit coursework online. So you can submit your work online. We then see a view like this, and we can actually mark that work online. And finally, the feedback and the grades that you receive for each piece of written work is received using this tool as well. So it handles the submission of the work, the marking from the tutors, and the actual feedback that you'll receive yourself. It also has other stuff. It helps you to improve some of your study skills and the way you reference and citate. So it's really useful for improving your academic skills as well. And then just finally, we actually have a mini website which is completely devoted to giving more information about the IHTA course. And I will put the URL in the chat box when I finish talking, but this is a screenshot of the first page. And there's loads of information on this site about the course, about how to apply, sort of the fees, the actual modules, what we cover, who teaches on it, all this sort of stuff. So it's great. If you've not already found that and you want to find out more, that's a great place to go to. And as I say, I'll put the link in the chat box in just a second. So I'll hand you back to Chris. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Yes, I'll just say as well about the website. The good thing about looking at the mini site is if you go on there and you look at the the course structure, look at modules on there, then you can have a look at and there are individual pages on each of the modules, and you can go and see what's covered in each of the modules. And in terms of why choosing this particular program as well, I would recommend that anybody to go and look at that, and you can sort of see international range of contributors, the expertise of the people who lead and deliver the modules. The fact that we do deliver things which you just don't get anywhere else. I would say, like the modules on pharmaceutical pricing, on the implementation of HTA in low and middle income countries and so on, which really do contribute to the uniqueness of this program. But other than that, I would also mention, basically reiterating what Claire has talked about, the flexible learning that's offered by a distance learning online program such as this. You study at home, you study from the office, the environment is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. It's up to you when you come in, when you watch things, when you download things, when you read things. Discussion groups run over sort of 3 days, so it doesn't matter if, for example, you're in India or somewhere else in Asia or South America or the United States, you can still all interact. And the other benefits are that there are no visa requirements, you don't have to travel to Sheffield, there are no residency requirements and so on. So you're getting a full established master's programme where you're just paying the fee and the course fee, and that really is it. You get access to this high quality interactive material. We've developed these over 3 years. Other programmes in the school copy what we do. Because we've been able to pilot it and test it, we get student feedback and we use that. We really value it and we use it to help improve materials and delivery as much as we can. As Claire and Luke have mentioned, we use a variety of teaching methods, a variety of tools to deliver things, so that you're not just getting the same thing week in, week out. It's not just lecture, read this, lecture, read this. There's a lot of variety there. Discussion groups, blogs, group work, paired work, watching some lectures, reading something, doing quizzes and so on. And then there's student support, because of course as distance learners, we're all aware that one of the potential issues is that great, you've got all this flexibility, but you might feel isolated and unsupported. So bearing this in mind, every student is assigned a personal tutor with whom they can basically discuss anything, stuff about the course, things outside of the course and so on. You will get good support from module tutors and leads. Our experience and what we always seek to achieve is that you will be replied to if you send an email within 24 or at most 48 hours. We have excellent course administration here, particularly from Jess Meacham and Matt Scarborough. We are very lucky in having Luke and his colleague Dan. We are having actual learning technologists whose job is to help us put together the best possible online learning experience. So we've got all their expertise and experience in that, and that's quite unusual to have this sort of resource and capacity, and it's something the school is very fortunate to have. And then of course there's each of you. You can support one another, so it's not just interacting with and getting support from us here in Sheffield, but it's interacting with and getting support from one another. Obviously there's a shared experience, you'll be working as well as studying, and we try and facilitate and enable a degree of networking so that you can get to work with and know each other and therefore support one another. In terms of hard copy of textbooks, there's 2 or 3 modules which you will be informed about beforehand, before you take those modules where there's core text. You have to go out and purchase that. That will certainly make your learning easier. I think we send out headsets as well to all students. So Claire mentioned that you need one really to be able to sort of listen to lectures and things like that. Well, when you sign up, you will get sent a headset, and you will also of course get access to the thousands of electronic journals and resources to which the University of Sheffield subscribes. So you get access to the vast university library and its resources, and we seek to support you in developing academic writing skills, but there is also a designated unit within learning and teaching which is there to help you. They've developed distance learning facilities to help people with their academic writing, and there's also an English language centre to help people with writing in English if that's needed. In terms of career opportunities, I'll just make mention really of a couple of things. There are 2 ways in which our students over the last 3 years have used the Masters programme and what they've learned that I'm aware of, that they've got in touch with me and told me about. And basically the vast majority of our students come from the pharmaceutical and devices industry. Then we have a big group of students who come from working in the public sector, working for health technology assessment agencies, departments of health and so on. And then lastly, a smaller number working sort of academic environments. But wherever people are actually working, there are 2 ways in which they are using what they are learning from this particular programme. One is career progression, and it is with that in mind that they've joined the programme. So they want to do the same thing they're doing, but they want to improve their career prospects. They want to go up, make their way up the ladder. And we've had students join the course of their Masters that have changed jobs doing just that, and have said that the course has been key to them doing that. The other way is a sort of a sideways move. So they might be working in a particular part of, say, some market access within the pharmaceutical industry, and they want to keep working within HTA, but to be doing something a bit different within the HTA process, which is quite a broad process. And this programme offers them the skills to do that. And people have used that. I know at least a couple of students who've moved from pharma into public sector, into academic work, for example, still within HTA, but this course has enabled them to make that sideways move. In terms of entry requirements now, it's normally an upper second class degree or better from a UK or the equivalent from a non-UK university. And where it says their relevant work experience is also considered here. And this is because we actually have a small number of students who, for example, haven't been at university for quite some time, may have got something like a 2-2 in their degree, say 10, 15 years ago, but in the meantime has spent sort of 10 years working within the pharmaceutical industry, for example. And we consider their background, and we consider personal statements and so on, and their ability to do a course such as this. And I have to say, those students who, they may not have got a fantastic degree some time ago, but they've got great experience within the area, they do extremely well. And we are happy to consider it on a case-by-case basis if it is that you don't have quite a good enough degree, but you've got relevant work experience, then we will definitely consider that. The other issue in terms of entry is English language. If it is not your first language, then basically we require this particular standard of English, and you can find out more details at that web address there. And once again, there's a small degree of discretion that we can exercise here, in the sense that, for example, somebody may not have a recent English language qualification, but they've got a recent degree from an English university, or they have recently worked for a number of years within, say, industry within the UK and so on. So where they would be forced, they are required to speak English. So that can be taken as a consideration. You might have to be sort of interviewed over the phone just to test your standard of English. But so in a few cases we are able to waive that English requirement, but only in very specific circumstances. Course fees, these are the current course fees for people who are going to enrol in the spring semester. This February will be our last intake. I think we have 2 intakes a year, one in September and one in February. After this February, it will only be in September. Those are the current fees. As you can see, they're mostly sort of depending on how many modules you're taking, and usually, yes. Well, you can see it there, and I think there might be some slight changes with the September intake, but not much. In terms of the application process, it's all online. We have a fantastic admissions team here in terms of Emma and Ben, who can help you through that process. The supporting documents that are required in the applications, you'll see all this when you go online to apply. The personal statement, we do place good weight on this. I have to say, we all see it, and it does moderate selection. 2 references that are clearly provided independently by your referees. Transcripts of degrees and certificates, and if necessary, evidence that you meet our English language proficiency requirements. The application deadline for the February intake is 30th of January. Okay, the semester starts on the 10th of February. So you can sort of go in and log in and start applying at any particular point in time, but really all of that key evidence that you see listed there needs to be in by the 30th of January, and that gives us enough time to get you through registration and get fees sorted and so on, and have you registered and accessing materials on that week beginning the 10th of February. Okay, and there are some URLs for if you need any further information. There are some email addresses if you want to go away and think about things and think, oh yes, they didn't mention this and I wanted to know about that. Then you can send any questions you have to those inquiry emails. But other than that, this is your chance now to ask any questions you have as a result of what you've seen from the presentations today.
Okay, Tamitope, I've enabled your microphone access, so you should be able to talk if you press the talk button above the list, above where your name is, and you should be able to fire a question at us. So I don't know if you can find the button, the talk button. If you can't find the talk button, if you'd like to type the question into the chat window. Another thing just to mention, if people are wanting to use their microphone and they've not run through the audio setup wizard in this software, if you could just do that first, that will adjust the levels of your your microphone and your speakers or your headset, and it will allow you to use to ask questions. And you can do that by going to the Tools window at the top, the Audio menu, and go to Audio Setup Wizard. I notice a few of you are typing questions in at the moment, so we'll just wait for those. Oh, hello. I can very vaguely hear from someone. Would you like to try and turn up your microphone volume?
I'll just answer Eileen's question here. Did you mention the cost of the course? Yeah, we can go back and look at that. There it is. It's £10,500 currently, payable over 2 years to do the full MSc, 7,500 for the diploma, and just under 4,000 for the certificate. So what you're getting on each of those for the MSc, you do 8 modules, the 5 core modules plus a dissertation. For the diploma, 8 modules, including the 5 core modules. And then for the certificate, you do 4 modules, and you can choose. You don't have to do any of the core modules. If you don't want, you can choose which modules you want to do, though they only run in particular semesters. And we do have quite a few students who come and they just do, say, 1 or 2 individual modules, and they pay that fee, that £1,250 fee. Okay, Darley's question, I'm happy to answer that as well. Do the modelling modules provide practical training in modelling, and how in-depth are they? Does it cover discrete event simulation? I don't know what VBA is, to be honest. I'm not a modeller, but I know I've encountered modelling enough to know what the ES is. In answer to your question, yes. There are 2 principal modelling modules. So one is a core module, 6113, which gives you an introduction to modelling for international HTA, and that's a very sort of conceptual one. You're looking at models conceptually, critically, so you understand how to build a model conceptually, and how to understand what's a good model, what's a less good model. And that gives you a real grounding in it, Visual Basic. Oh, okay, Excel, yes. Then, so you have a good thorough grounding in modelling, and then there is a module which is basically a online version of a module that runs on the Health Economics and Decision Modelling Masters, which is a face-to-face program, and that is on building models. So in that optional module, 6119, you can build models. Excuse me, and you do that using Excel in that particular one. But both Excel and DES are covered in 6113 when describing certain things. So how you go about choosing a particular model, how you go about why you choose particular software for doing a particular types of model. Yes, they are covered across those 2 modules. And there was actually a 3rd modelling module run by Dr. Susa Paisley and Paul Tappenden, which looks in greater depth at conceptual modelling and how you go about sourcing data and parameters, values for models. So look, Haley, can you provide an example of the type of project that would be completed as part of the MSc? Was the MSc more appropriate than the diploma? Currently, the full MSc, the dissertation, essentially has a particular structure. We're going to look to make the details of that available. There's a dissertation handbook, and essentially, if you have a technology, you or your employer has a technology that you're interested in, we get you to work on that, and we have a pool example if you don't have one that you work through, and you essentially build a value case for that technology. Essentially learning everything you will have learned, and sort of demonstrating everything you would have learned, especially from the core modules within the master's program. So you are required to sort of establish where that technology would fit within a disease management pathway. You have to do a sort of a brief clinical review of the evidence, what current evidence is there on the technology or on its comparators. You have to build a conceptual model relating to the cost effectiveness of that technology, and you have to consider it whether, in terms of producing a submission, what the differences are between producing a submission for somewhere like the UK and producing a submission for somewhere else like Canada. So you're bringing in all of the different elements of HTA, of the HTA process, in a practical example, either based on a technology that your employer comes up with or you come up with, or you use our sort of pool example. So that at the moment, that is how the dissertation is structured, has a very particular approach and function. And obviously, if you do the diploma instead, then you don't do that. So it's up to you really. If you see if you value in doing that, then definitely do that dissertation. We've got one of our American students just did the most amazing project dissertation using that approach, and it requires real thought and application. You will have a supervisor, one or two supervisors. We Skype with you. You may do Google Hangouts. You may do through telephone conversations and so on. So there's lots of support there for you to complete those dissertations. But yes, if you're just looking to pick up lots of conceptual and practical skills, then yes, do the dissertation, I would say.
Can I just mention that I've actually put an online open day evaluation form up on the screen, and we'd really value it if people could fill that in for us. Now, it's completely anonymous, and I've shared that with you there. You can type things in, and we won't be able to see what you're actually typing. So if you have the time, please can you fill that in as well. That'd be great.
Just to respond to Paul, I'd say that yeah, I mean, dentistry is slightly different, but I think there are certain principles of evidence-based practice and understanding health technologies that would be relevant for you. Thank you, everybody. If you've got any other questions, Claire and Luke and Emma are just going to stay here for another sort of 5 minutes to answer them, but I've got to go. So I want to thank you all for your participation and for your questions. And as you saw on the slides, you can get in touch with the IHTA address to it if you have any other questions, or get in touch with myself or Claire directly. You can find our emails on the website, and we'll answer your questions there. And just in answer to Hayley, does systematic review module include practical experience and meta-analysis? Yes, it does. Yes, you use RevMan, you work through a data set. It's just obviously one form of synthesis that you can use. And then there's the advanced introduction to analysis techniques module, sort of more advanced systematic review module, where you're not just doing meta-analysis, you're looking critically at things like network meta-analysis, analysis for diagnostic studies, qualitative evidence synthesis, and so on. But I'll leave you all now and hand you over, leave you in all the capable hands of Luke and Claire and Emma.